those of you that are having the summer break season blues, never fear. Because that's what the Blackout Racing Series is here for. Welcome, one and all, to this Monday evening's action. It's going to be electric, it's going to be epic, and all other superlatives with E besides. How are we all doing? I hope we're all doing well. Now, I have some great news, first of all, because if I press this little key here, as you can see, we actually have proper cars. This is not a drill, ladies and gentlemen. We actually have cars. I now know who's driving for who. There will be no more confusion, no more histrionics, no more flapping up the gaff. I know that Milo and Buck 20 are in the McLaren. I know that J-Lane is in the Stake Kick Sauber Gambling F1 team car. I know that Magico is in the Mercedes AMG Formula 1 Petronas Formula 1 F1 team. I know that Buck 57 is in the Oracle Red Bull Racing car. It is a certainly fantastic time. So, let's firstly start this particular week by actually changing the title to the correct thing, because it is not the Chomp and Waffle Grand Prix. It is, in fact, the Dutch Grand Prix, and then we are heading off to the Temple of Speed, the Italian Grand Prix. That is what we're here to do this evening, and it is going to be absolutely awesome fun. And you better believe it is. But let's have a look at the calendar. So as you can see, we're on week 10 of the Blackout Bonanza. We're at the Netherlands and Monza. It's another sprint race. No qualifying. Straight into the action. And it's going to be very interesting indeed. And then Monza will have a traditional qualifying, but it will be a 50% event. Week 11 is on the 12th of August, so that royally confused me. But once we uncrown that particular confusion, you can see we're not going to be at the Sing realm. We did that in week 8. We did Canada and Singapore, both in 1 week. It will be China and Portimao. I suspect China 35% and Portimao the 50% race. Week 12, alas, I will not be here. But week 13, I certainly will be. For the final week, possibly the championship decider at Abu Dhabi and Interlagos. It's going to be fun. I can tell you now, it is going to be a fun one. And my husband, Magico, immediately is crying out for help because he's just realised that it's a sprint. I apologise for being the cork. You never know. You never know. If anyone has a sprint week like Maximus did last time out, then he's going to be pirouetting peerlessly. So we'll see what happens there. We have not as many drivers as usual this week. I have debated as to whether I go out and use my driving skills. However, I would only do that if it was on a controller. And I did 1 lap of Zandvoort and I gave up. So I think that says it all, really. Although I wasn't that far off Big Sam. I was less than a second off him. I chose not to show my hand of cards. But if I did submit a time, it would have been less than a second off Big Swimmer, who has done infinitely more F1 24 than I have. So be scared. And it's no assist, which I haven't done on the controller since F1 2017. There's something that will make you feel old. We are just waiting for proceedings to get underway. An 8-lap sprint race, followed by 25 laps of the Dutch Grand Prix track. Of course, last time out we had a sprint race. It was Slam in the Ferrari who took top honours. In fact, it was a Ferrari 1-2 in the sprint race. Very much the sprint sensations, the Scuderia. However, will they repeat that feat today? Well, they're going to have to really work their hooves off if they're able to accomplish that one. By the way, as always, a shout out to Mr. Magico, because this screen here, it's not the end of the stream yet. I'm looking very chestnutty there, and I look adorable. But he's made all of these screens. Look at that. Look at that right there. That is the ultimate male, and you know it is. But he made all of them, so please give him a follow if you haven't already. Give him a follow, show him your support. He's also streaming right now as well, so if you want a driving perspective of the Blackout Racing Series, go over to him, because you'll be able to tell immediately from one's perspective how chaotic proceedings can become. So what can we expect from the Dutch Grand Prix? Well, that is a very good question. Obviously, sprint race is reverse championship order, barring any reserves that may be joining the fun. Are any joining the fun? I don't know the answer to that. So let's go and find out. Any reserves joining in today? The answer is no. Like I said, I debated joining in, but I would pretty much embarrass myself, and that's no fun. So we're gonna wait because Timalele has just finished his sweat session and is now part of the lobby. I say sweat session. He says he's done no practice. Press X to doubt. We have 12 of the finest drivers that Blackout has to offer. And soon enough, we will be underway for the sprint race. Like I said, not many laps to make an impression. You've got to get the moves done quickly, but equally, you can't let desperation creep in. You can ill afford to do that. Because any mistake, any spin, any front wing damage, more often than not, and in fact 100% of the time, because safety cars don't happen in a sprint race, thanks Codemasters. But either way, you just literally, infinitely cannot afford any mistakes whatsoever. Otherwise, you'll be mauled right to the back of the pecking order, and once a predator will turn into a prey, and that is no fun. So we'll see what happens here. By the way, some of you might know I was on a little broadcast. You might not know it. It was a creator series. I did the Formula 2 action at the Australian Grand Prix with a lovely guy called John Harris, also known as Is Amusing, whatever you want to call him. He is certainly very amusing. Either way, what a legend he is. What a bunch of legends creator series are, and obviously none of that would be possible if it weren't for the Blackout Racing League, because that's where I've been able to hone my craft, and they have been always very patient with me and always very appreciative of what I do, and I am infinitely full of gratitude. So thank you very much to Blackout. Like I say, it wouldn't be possible without them. What should be possible very soon is racing to get underway, and it's not happened so far. Should put the music back on. I was planning on actually showing how many laps it would take me to get decent at Zandvoort. However, I didn't, because, well, maybe I'll do it for Monza in a little intermittent break. Who knows? I might do that. But equally, I don't expect any miracles. That is all I am saying. Because I have not done, like I say, no assists on a controller. Haven't done that in a very long time. So, there you go. And I could do it on the wheel, but that's on the Xbox. And my Xbox and wheel are not right in front of me. So that's not happening. Predictions up then. Who will win the sprint race? Out of Milo, Buck 20, J-Lane, Magico, Buck 57, Terziak, Maximus, Slam, Thanasi, Big Sam, Stark, and Timalele. Well, it's reverse championship order again. If Slam is still in that reverse championship spot, he's got a very good chance of securing the W once again and really asserting himself as the sprint king. However, we know how quickly Thanasi and co can get through the field. They cut through it like a butter knife. And, well, actually, that's not very good, is it? Like a knife through butter. There you go. That's more respectable. But Zandvoort, I think, is generally easier to overtake at. Slightly wider, more overtaking opportunities as a whole. A slightly longer straight to make the most of the opportunities. But, like I say, opportunities are few, fleeting, and far between, because it's time for the sprint race, where who dares wins. Made in Carlisle, born in the Royal Navy. 20 seconds then until we go to the pit lane. And then we will find out the order, and we actually know who's on what team now. Turns out equal cars are not completely shafted. It's a great time, and my little brain will not become too perplexed. Which is a commentator's dream, personally. So, the time ticks down, and we enter into right about now the pit lane. The F1 Paddock Club. Good grief. Look how excited they are. The cars aren't even moving yet. I don't even think the people at the front are looking at the cars. They're just celebrating the birth of bitumen. Yes! I love tarmac. Well, who doesn't in this game? That is the real question. So, like I say, not many laps. Just over a handful of them to complete to decide not only who wins the sprint race, but also the grid for the race itself. That is the way we are doing things here. So, let us find out who will take top honours here, not down under, because it's the Dutch Grand Prix. You and I don't know, but we shall find out very soon. Nice texture glitches in the window, by the way. Just a really well-optimised pit lane here at the Dutch Grand Prix. I wonder why they put those in without proper confirmation from the FIA. That's a conversation for another day. It's 5 red lights to the sprint. And it's lights out. And away we go. And it's a good start. Slams on pole again. He's in dreamland. And he's into turn 1. Comfortably in P1. And there's contact further back between a McLaren and Stark in the Williams. Might have front wing damage and have come a cropper already, but through the first few corners, Slam goes astronomically wide, but he's in P1, which is good news for the prancing horseman. Maximus, though, in hot pursuit. Then it's Magico, followed by J-Lane, Buck 57, Big Sam completing the top 6, and therefore the first half of the grid. Who will be making those moves early on, though? That is the real question. Milo is mounting an assault towards Timalele, or thought he was, but no gap opened up. There's chaos ahead, though. Buck 57 and Big Sam making moves, and Buck 20 and Big Sam will be going side by side down the back straight. Who will enter the right-hander first? It should be Buck 20, has the inside line. No surprise he does, but Big Sam makes a big mistake, and Timalele has been caught up in the crossfire. Into the sandbox he goes. Now's not the time for sandcastle making, as good grief, my husband was up into P2, but J-Lane has, well, quickly knocked him off that pedestal, which is rather upsetting. It's because Slam's had a moment, no. The sprint sensation in Hungary has come a cropper and is in P6. And that's no fun at all. And Magico now battling out with Buck 57, who ascends up into P3. Slam and Buck 20, meanwhile, side by side. Coming out of the bank corner, and it's Buck 20 who gets the superior exit, and off he goes on his merry way. Maximus in dreamland then, as he takes the lead of this sprint race, already a quarter of the way through it almost, and he's 2 seconds up. Would you believe it? The Haas driver, the American dream, with an Irishman at the wheel. That is a confusing fusion, isn't it? But J-Lane trying to pile on some sort of a pursuit, but 2.2 seconds is certainly, well, it's a timid attempt, but Magico and Buck 20 are going at it. Buck 20 sweeps right round the outside, and then Slam, because Magico was so displaced, goes down the inside at the left-hander. So Magico put down 2 positions, and Thanasi now making an aggressive move to the inside of the final corner. Easily ascends up into P6, and now it's Milo's turn to make Magico's evening even worse with the help of DRS. A dosage of the rear wing flap, and he's through into P7. Next car up the road in this fast little train is Mr. Slam, and Thanasi looks like he's got to the inside on board with the Red Bull driver, and that's a very awkward T-cam because, well, I changed mine in order to do time trial, don't ask, but through in towards the right-hander, there is no opportunity. Opening up, and Timalele is making up for lost time, as into P11 he goes. Big Sam is having an absolutely torrid time in this sprint race so far. Tell you who isn't, and having a tremendous time alternatively, it's Maximus. Opening up the gap to 2.5 seconds, and everyone else will be hard-pressed to do anything about that. But let's look further back, because Buck 57 is looking to mount a challenge on Mr. J-Lane. Buck 20 is off in his own little world. Slam would be hoping he was in DRS detection. No, he isn't. And he's just over a second behind. Let's get the full track map up to have a real visualization of proceedings. And, well, you don't need a track map to tell you that Thanasi has gazumped Slam down the straight. And the other Ferrari is making moves, though. Down the inside of Magico goes Terziak, ascending up into P8. And now it's Stark on the move. Testicles of tungsten, but can't deploy them just yet. But look at that for a switchback. Contact Mayer with the right rear. That's great perspective. It's the left rear wheel, and Stark moves up into P9. Great racing, as it always has been on F124. Meanwhile, Buck 57 has ascended up into P2 as we approach already halfway through this sprint race. Milo on the move. Slam tries to get the move, but really overcooks it. He's goosed that opportunity, and Milo grabs that bull by the horns, wrestles it around, and is up into P6. Well, he's grabbing the horse by the hooves, which is risky business, but it's paid off, which is so credit to him where credit is due. He carries on his merry way then towards the likes of Thanasi, who he himself is piling on insurmountable pressure to Buck 20. J-Lane in the background there, now the foreground as we switch to him, has made the move for P2. Thanasi makes an academic pass into P4. Milo defends P6. It's a Ferrari 7-8. It's a stark contrast, if you know what I'm saying. Speaking of stark, he's in P9 and causing all sorts of problems for Terziak as Magico displaced by Big Swimmer. And he's down to the back of the pecking order, but he won't give up. You know he most certainly won't give up. Using the slipstream, no opportunity opening up, and opportunity is apparently my word of the day. Slap me in the face and call me Susan, because I'm not saying that again. Maximus is wondering why he has it so easy. It's like, where have you all gone? I've got bloody acres. The king of Zandvoort, meanwhile everyone else putting sand in their eye as Buck 57 almost goes into the grass box as opposed to the sand box. A big slide out of that corner, and Thanasi will soon be on his case on lap number 5 and will really, well, be asking his teammate, oi, get out of the way, mate, I've got places to be. And Buck 57 normally was only too happy to oblige as the Ferrari boys are switching round in what is an easy move. Tim Alele's overcooked it again, though. Contact made with the second Ferrari of Slam, just misjudging the braking point. It's a Mercedes nightmare. Penultimate last and plumb last. And there's no fruit of comfort that can be given to them for that, because Tim Alele's now had 2 offs and has to reset, recuperate, and go again for the second time this race. It's disaster for El Deutsch. Meanwhile, in the Dutch Grand Prix sprint race, 3 seconds is now the gap as Milo moves past his teammate, who may have been slightly too kind. Either that or Milo was extremely forceful. But the Flying Scotsman is going to lap up that milk like a hungry cat. I think it's a thirsty cat. It's a liquid we're working with here. I'm not going to continue this conversation, but Terziak can't make the move on Buck 20, who will probably do anything and everything he can. 1, to stay with his teammate, and 2, to keep Terziak at bay. Big Sam, though, he's been in the sand bay too much, and he's got a 3-second time penalty. Deary me. Buck 57 again, trying to go around the outside. A bit of contact made. Argy-bargy into turn number 1. But easily and comfortably through, once again, goes the Red Bull driver. Speaking of Red Bull, here's the other one. J-Lane's in a Red Bull sandwich. And when Thanasi's on your case, it could end very, very gruelly indeed. And by that I mean gruesomely. If I'm to use that word again, J-Lane has a grueling challenge on his hands. But he likes getting down and dirty. It's what Kick Sauber do best. With a car that fluorescent. Well, part-time F1, full-time traffic warden. Through the left-hander then, onto the DRS, back straight. J-Lane keeping up nicely with Buck 57. It's not going to make things easy for Thanasi, but a bit of overtake used. Could go for a dive. He certainly thought about it. Feinted to the inside, showed the nose, but J-Lane, pressure is for tyres, which are on his car, so that's good. It's got some pressure left, but equally, he's got to use and lap up some of that pressure again. Soak it up like a sumptuous sponge because, well, he's moved past Buck 57. Thanasi's going to move past his teammate, and such is the overspeed. The double slipstream is supreme. As down the inside he goes, we enter the final lap of this sprint race in Zandvoort, and Thanasi is up into P2. He's going to make it, I believe, 2 in a row for sprint race second places. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. I'm completely wrong. I literally said earlier, Terziak got P2. He's in P7 currently, but Thanasi improves on his sprint showing last time out at the Hungaroring. Up into P2 he goes, and that puts him in the prime position to have the biggest prize at the end of this race weekend. Up at the front, though, As often to the curb he goes. Luckily, no track limits, gremlins, or penalties going his way. He loses 6 tenths courtesy of that mistake. But with a 3-second buffer, Maximus has pretty much had it all his own way. And he is not going to squander this superb moment through the penultimate corner. The second sprint king on F1 24. Round the final corner. The American dream. Maximus takes home the sprint race victory. Thanasi comes home P2 and J-Lane rounds out our sprint podium. Buck 57 has to settle for P4. Milo does well to claim P5. Terziak up to P6 in the final few moments. Buck 20 in 7th and completing the points. It's none other than Mr. Stark in P8. And then the rest didn't get points. That's quite sad. Driver of the day, according to the game. And, well, he made up the most positions. And he was patient. And patience is a virtue. And is rewarded handsomely. Because he is second place. Maximus, then, your winner for the sprint, has pole position for the Dutch Grand Prix. The lone Haas driver. Well, fighting with the American army on his back. And I'll tell you what, they have brought the firepower in this sprint spectacle. Thanasi P2, J-Lane P3, Buck 57 and Milo complete the top 5. Terziak for Ferrari in 6th, the McLaren second one of Buck 20 in 7th. Lone Williams of Stark in 8th, Slam in P9, Timalele up to P10. In the end, a big swimmer and Mr. Magico complete our grid lineup. You don't need to be sorry, Mr. Magico. It is all a learning experience. And if I tried to do the race on the controller with no assists, without any practice, I probably would be 30 seconds behind. Tell you what also lost 30 seconds, the days in Zandvoort, because we're already thrust into race day, and Magico's left the session. If more people start leaving, then that's probably not good. In fact, let me check the race director, because I have a feeling something quite bad has happened here. And it has, because it's literally just used the sprint grid again. No wonder people are escaping this dastardly, devious situation, because it's a shambles. They're all leaving the session, and ladies and gentlemen, your winner for the Dutch Grand Prix is me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to thank my family, especially my mum, because she gave birth to me. Big Sam for the red flags, thank you. My husband, Magico, for being betrothed to me. Without him, none of this would be possible. Yeah, sprint grid didn't. I thought it didn't because I saw a Haas on the inside, which meant he was in P2, and I thought that was wrong, and it was. If anyone currently in my chat dares me to race from the back of the grid on a controller with no assists, say I. Don't you dare. Anyway, while we're there, let's go back to the standby screen, and soon enough, we'll be back in an open lobby. Oh, Big Sam, why would you do that? Nah, it's fine. I'll refrain. I will refrain in this particular instance, unless you ask all the drivers in the Discord chat, and they all say I as well, in which case, my hands might be slightly tied. Thanasi, right, listen, I'm not that good on a controller. I'm really not that good on a controller with no assists. I could deliberately grief his race, but then I feel like I'd live long enough to see myself become the villain. And I don't really want to do that after it. No, they didn't. Stop lying, man. Stop lying. That's just not true. We are waiting patiently then to get underway with proceedings. Okay, right, if they did say yes, say what car I should be in. Tell me what car they said I should be in then. There's my next question. What did they say? Right, I'm just waiting. We're just waiting for things to kick back off. I've lost. Help. I don't. Ah, there we go. They're all in the main menu. If you get someone else to come in here and confirm this, I might do it. I'm not sure yet. That was a fun sprint race, though, wasn't it? Another sprint king added to the collection, and it's Mr. Maximus in the Haas car. Last time out, it was the Italian Stallions. This time, it's the Bald Eagles. And that might sound slightly less glamorous, but I'll tell you what. He did a very, very good job, did Mr. Maximus. kept it clean, kept his head, and that's all he needed to do. And it was excellent. So good on them. Good on the Haas team, and particularly good on Maximus, because he was the lone driver. Aha! A new lobby. Let me join. Soon enough, we'll be back underway with an actual grid. Let me see if my memory was working Right, well, my game crashed as well. So, J-Lane, you're not the only one, mate. That's fun, isn't it? Right. Well, back on to F1 24 we go then. Thanks, EA and Codemasters, for making a very good and very optimized game. Let me just emphasize that. A good and optimized game. I think I got away with that. I don't think they'll notice. I've got an invite. Unfortunately, my game has crashed, so you're just going to have to wait for me. We're waiting for F1 24 to just bloody load. Why are you not loading? Oh my god, it's not loading. What are you doing? Slam's also crashed. Okay, right, cool. Well, this is fun. I'm trying to get F1 24 to work, ladies and gentlemen, and all I can say is it's been an absolute disaster. It's just trying to sort its stuff out. Like, come on, man. What are you doing? Yes, I do wish to continue. Did I press no? Oh. No, I'm just an idiot. That's why. Yes, yes, yes. I'm on my way. Give me a second. As long as it doesn't kick me out again. Thank you, J-Lane. Right, cool. Join. Stop wasting time, man. We've got racing to do. The Netherlands. The gnarly Netherlands. The devious Dutch Grand Prix. Shut up, man. Don't want to hear an engineer chatting. Absolute waffle into my ear canals. I don't care about Sainz's lap time. Sainz isn't even in the Blackout Racing League. And how many times has Carlos Sainz won a race in Blackout? That's right, none. He's washed. He doesn't want it. So what's my game to say? Yes, J-Lane, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. It's just taken a damn minute. Right, I'm here. Hello, everyone. I'm spectating now. There we go. Who's not here? Own up. Who is not there? I will oust you. I will remember. Oh, I know who it is. It's Mr. Stark. That's exactly who it is. Oh, dear. Oh, there you go. Now we wait patiently. Back onto the standby screen. At least my game isn't completely balked. Famous last words. So, Netherlands, 35% race, 25 laps. What can we exploit? It'll be a one-stop. Let's put it there. Unless there are safety cars, in which case it probably won't be a one-stop. But, you know, equally, I'm willing to be surprised. That's all part of the fun. I can't tell if people are actually joking and whether they actually did say yes and I am racing. For now, I'm a spectator and I'm waiting patiently for proceedings to get underway properly this time, without the sprint grid deciding not to be a sprint grid. Or perhaps it gets confused because technically the sprint rules don't carry over. And so you'd have to do a one-shot quali in order to fix the problem because the rules have changed. Because it's not F1 23 anymore. Just a thought. Either way, Maximus on pole position, Thanassi in P2. You'd probably be best thinking that Thanassi would romp into the distance and get a good start, but equally, good starts have been quite hard to come by for a lot of the drivers. There's also been a lot of unknowns in terms of the handling. So, it could be interesting. It could be very interesting, actually. So, never say never. It could be the race of a lifetime once again, as it seems to have always been. There's been drama, there's been controversy, there's been battles, all the way through all of these races on F124. If I can say anything positive about this game, it's that as a commentator, I've never ran out of stuff to talk about. And that makes it an absolute dream. Oh, never mind. Nice computer. Apparently some assertion has failed. What assertion? The failed assertion that I'm actually driving this race. Oh, that's a shame. I'll just have to stay as a spectator then. Well, wait patiently. Right, everybody's in. You can hear many, many controller sound effects happening. Right. You've got until this lobby starts up to tell me if I am actually racing. And if you don't say, then I am in the box. Which I don't mind. Because I quite like commentating this gig. I always have. That's the whole point. 25 seconds, and then we're going to get underway, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a drill. We're going to be racing. And it's going to be a wonderful time. Get ready, everybody. 5 seconds. If I survive and not get lapped, I have done well, wife. Yes, you have indeed, Mr. Magico. I believe in you. You can do it. It's all a learning experience. That is all I can say. It is all a learning experience. And you'll be all the better for it. And that's why we do this. But for now, we do battle in Zandvoort. The grid is set. The paddock is up, packed and full to the brim with anticipation and anxiety because nobody knows what could unfold in this race. And ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Loading is complete and we're going to be heading to the grid. Here we are. It's a great time. It's a great time for many reasons. Firstly, because it's the proper F1 cars. And secondly, because, and more importantly, it's race day. And we're going to have a very, very fun time. Like I say, it will most definitely be a one-stop in this particular race, barring any safety cars whatsoever. But like I say, you can bet that normally the impossible happens, and in Blackout, the impossible always happens. And so, I am not going to leave anything to chance. Jay Lane's already left the session. Why has he left? Don't do this to me again. Do not do this to me again. Has his game crashed again? That might well be what's happened. If so, I hope he gets back on quickly, because otherwise, State Kick, Sauber... Yeah, it has crashed. State Kick, Sauber F1 are in jeopardy. And Jay Lane's P3 could be going down the skip. I really hope that's not the case whatsoever. But he has to get a move on. So, high downforce, high aggression, high stakes. It's Formula 1. It's the Blackout Racing League. And soon, we will be go here in the Netherlands. Last season, your race winner was not me. It was Thanasi, in fact. We battled all race long. I actually went down to third on the first lap, but I managed to get a decent little opportunistic move on Terziak down the inside into Sector 2. That was a very nice move. I'm very happy with that. Then me and Thanasi proceeded to use our own DRS and romp 30 seconds away from the rest of the field. That was very fun. Speeding in the pit lane, getting a penalty for that was not very fun. I can tell you that much. It was really not very fun. And it ruined my race. But ultimately, I won it on the track. But penalties, yeah, we don't talk about that. There was also... I tried to appeal, but they said there was clear evidence that I had sped. And I said, what do you mean? Just because there is a video in front of you saying that I sped doesn't mean I actually sped. To which that argument didn't end well. But here we are. J-Lane is back. And we're going to be on track. very shortly indeed. Mediums or softs, maybe even the hards, maybe even the contra strategy is going to play a big part in this contest. We are going to find that out very, very soon. Make it at the end of these 5 red lights. Lights out and away we go, and it's a great start for Maximus on the soft tyres. A bit of wheel spin for Thanasi, and Jaylen look very aggressive and promising, but Buck 57 removes that optimism and turns it into brief pessimism. Has the inside line for turn 3, thinks he's got the move done, but Jaylen still there on the inside. Will try and get the exit. A confetti of carbon fibre appears out of thin air, and Jaylen has to settle for P4 in the end. Maximus already sprinting off into the distance, 9/10 the gap. Thanasi in P2, Maximus making a break for it with his battery. Red Bull 2 and 3 already at the start of this contest. Jaylen into P4, Milo P5, Terziak holds P6, Stark making up places, so is Timalele. And Jaylen immediately trying to make amends. He's close, but not close enough. It's more Milo threatening to make the move. Actually sends Jaylen defensive, and it means Terziak has a great chance. And he's on the medium tyres. The harder compounds notoriously have a slightly better purchase on this F124 game, but Terziak can't make the most of it so far. Has to settle into the wheel tracks, and that means on board with the Williams we go, who has a great opportunity. Maximus already 1.2 seconds out in front. He's absolutely zooming in that Haas car. Thanasi, though, keeps him honest through the first few corners. We'll see what his actual pace is like, because as you can see, I mean, he's hardly used any battery whatsoever. He's going to stretch his legs slowly but surely, and then start piling on the pressure. Bit by bit, crushes opposition like a hydraulic press. You love to see it. Buck 20, though. Moves happening there. Timalele's up to P8. Slam's lost all momentum, and it looks like Buck 20 is going to try and make a move, as Big Sam looks to be the man threatening. On board with my husband, Magico. Upset with the way he performed last week and said, could I help him out? And the answer is, yes, I could. I've given him good details as to how he should attack some of the corners and the braking zones, and it looks like he's doing a great job. Look at that. Didn't have any problems in the sprint race. It's just about keeping your nose clean. So far, keeping his nose very much clean. And Big Sam there, for a brief moment, getting a suboptimal exit. And Magico licking his lips at the chance to slurp up P11, to which I say, get your lips out of other men. Thanasi briefly with the fastest lap, but the harder tyre compounds. Here we go. I told you it would prove to pay dividends, and Timalele is looking to make his mark on this race. With the fastest lap, a 1 minute 12 point, but 8 temps. He's closing in on Stark as there's a yellow flag, and Magico, I'm so sorry I've cursed you. Or maybe it's because he was making a move and got caught up in the kerfuffle. No front wing damage to be seen on the Mercedes car, but equally just has to regroup and go again. Thanasi, meanwhile, is within a second. Well within DRS range, and has pulled. Look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars in this DRS train have all joined on and coupled to the front locomotive of Maximus. And we'll see if Fire and Brimstone can make hay, but Thanasi actually made hay into the gravel trap. Just dipping 2 wheels in there, but because it's F124, he's absolutely fine. Hugging the inside of the final corner. Let's watch that gap erode away. What was 8.5 temps is now 6.5 temps. Make that 5.5 temps into the 4/10 margin just from DRS as Stark is making moves. A lovely, neat move down the inside. And Terziak was quite the aggressive man, and he just squeezes Timalele onto the grass. Or perhaps Timalele looking for a gap that was never open in the first place. Either way, it's gloves off in Zandvoort. And because they were battling so hard, look at that, no DRS whatsoever, and Terziak so displeased with that particular eventuality. Timalele's had the opportunity open up for him. Again, the superior momentum round the outside. Stark's relegated P6 and 7. He's let Terziak and Timalele squabble amongst themselves. I've no idea why, but whatever the case, he's going to watch and wait very patiently indeed. And Terziak, well, we've seen they have a track record of being very aggressive to one another. And so it might continue here in the Netherlands. The 5-car DRS train up at the front then. Maximus has held the lead for 4 laps. He'll be very pleased about that. But it's not going to last anymore. Thanasi moves up into P1. Nay, it's a Red Bull 1-2 as Maximus dips a wheel into the grass at the braking zone. And luckily had enough grip to get round turn 1. But Red Bull, it's ecstasy. As Maximus almost sends his race into jeopardy. Down to P3, still in the podium positions, bearing in mind, and showed good pace in clear air. So we'll be hoping that he can use that pace and that track acclimatization he had by being so far out in front in the sprint race, just to keep consistent and keep the others behind him very much at arm's length. It's all about holding on to that podium position. Terziak being at the front of the DRS queue wasn't a smart idea, and so Timalele and Stark have moved up into P6 and 7 respectively. Big Swimmer, though, is on the move himself in the Visa Cash App RB swipe contactless car. He's in P9, more to the point. The Papaya machine, though, of Buck 20 is hot on his heels. Slam in P11 with a bit of a gap. Mr. Magico also with a bit of a gap. Meanwhile, the Red Bull duo have a choice. And that choice is, do they overtake or do they shake and bake the opposition behind? Buck 57 not even close to threatening his teammate. Maximus keeping up well. And maybe, again, just saving a bit of battery. Look at that. He's got, what's that, 78% battery. Maximus has been very clever, been able to save lots and lots of battery. And now the Duracell Bunny is very, very impressed. But for how long? Because he's going to have to be kicked to the curb very soon. Milo looking ever more menacing in the mirrors of J-Lane. The pursuit, as you see it, on board the McLaren man of Milo. Taking a tighter line there. Gets on the power by straightening up the car sooner. Can use the momentum through this left-hander. And that's a good exit. Can use a bit of battery and DRS to go to the inside at the right-hander. But no. Takes a sensible pill, and that's kicked in with world record timing because he stays behind J-Lane. But in a way, this just shifts the momentum towards him. J-Lane, now out of DRS range of the cars ahead, was still in it at the detection zone. So for Mr. Milo, that is no cream of comfort. But he is going to have J-Lane almost out of DRS range, and that will play into his hands. If he can just do that, upset the rhythm of the Sauber up ahead, it means he opens up his own opportunities just by being more aggressive. Yes, it uncouples them from the train up ahead, but it means at the same time, Miller has more of a chance of getting peak pleasantries in this Grand Prix. The 3-car train of Stark, Timalele and Terziak, though, are not making inroads. They are still 6th, 7th and 8th and losing time. Now 3.6 seconds away from J-Lane and Mr. Illo. And so that will be set to continue. Thanasi's had a moment! Oh my gosh! We cut onto Thanasi, who's had a moment out of the left-hander. The traction breaks, and the Red Bull driver plummets down the pecking order. Down 4 positions. He's now at the edges of the top 5. But a very uncharacteristic mistake made by the Red Bull man, and now Maximus, like a great white hungry shark, will sniff blood in the water, although going for a spot of lawn mowing is not part of the plan. Milo sees that as his opportunity, sees his P3 away, and now will try and deploy as much pace as possible in order to get up to the top 2 rather, and immediately making an impression. Maximus could not make said impression on Buck 57. And so it continues. Stark and Terziak going hammer and tong through the banked corner. Terziak has slipstream, cuts across, and is comfortably ahead by the time they make their way into the right-hander. But now, once again, we have a 5-car DRS train. Thanasi will be kicking himself surely, although J-Lane very quickly losing time to the cars ahead. So Thanasi will think, as soon as possible is when I want to get this move done. Not deploying battery here. Straight is notoriously way too short, and he has thought wiser about that one. Confidence will tank, though. When you're in the lead, you think you have control of the race. The last season's winner of the main Dutch Grand Prix just has to regroup and rebuild that confidence, which otherwise he already had. And the fall is notoriously so much quicker than the climb. Thanasi has it all to do now. Meanwhile, there is a change for the lead. Maximus using DRS. It's an A-star standard academic move. You saw it from a mile away. And Maximus was going miles an hour quicker. And that's why he's in P1 and Buck57 is now in P2. Call me Sky, I'm a good analyst. These three behind are slowly but surely catching, only by a couple of tenths a lap, but they are making some sort of inroads, which is good news for them. But they have to be patient about it. Maximus, though, gets his footing all crossed up, and Buck57, ever the wily old fox, looks to make a move, but such is the momentum he's lost, Milo sends it down the inside of the left-hander, and the McLaren man looks to be through. It'll be side by side into the right-hander. Buck57 has the inside line. He's going to be aggressive, try and cut Milo's avenue off, but Milo says, "Excuse me, sir, I paid rent for that position." Buck57 says, "No, sir, no mortgage for you." And so the battle continues. All the while, Milo is just so close to the diffuser of the Red Bull car. 1 to the outside, 2 to the outside. Maximus loses the lead. Make that possibly P2 as well, as Milo uses the momentum to try and run rings round the Haas car. But no, it is not done. Maximus does extremely well, and now J-Lane's the one looking to threaten. But watch out, sir. Thanasi is on the charge. Sharpened his horns, and now he's going to glaze his opposition in great style. At least that's what he thought, because it didn't happen. And look at the way they've battled. Look at these three. Up 1 second on this group. Thanasi makes a great move down the inside at the right-hander. J-Lane crossing over his own footing, and he stumbles and trips down into P5. Terziak is agonisingly close to DRS range. The top 5 slowing each other up. And look at this. The 3 that thought they were down and out for the count have suddenly resuscitated their own race. They're comfortably within DRS. They just have to stay in at the detection point. And it was at the beginning of that corner. And Terziak has DRS. These 3 are not out of the battle. It's a 3-car train to add. Now it's 8 cars worth. As look at that. Red Bull trying to make it a 1-2 once again. Milo not choosing to cut off the outside line. And for a moment, Thanasi threatened to make the move. In fact, now trying to use that outside line. And, well, I thought the switchback had such superior momentum. He would have gone for that. But alas, that is not to be. Sometimes the scripts do not write themselves. You have to wait patiently for the scripts to be written in real time. Top 4 then. Buck57 in P1, Milo P2, Thanasi P3, J-Lane P4, but that won't last very consistently. Oh no! Magico's had a moment. But it's only a half spin and he's on his way again. You're not in danger of being lapped. This is a good sign. Keep going, my husband. Like I say, the leader, Buck57, but you can bet that's going to last about as long as a Friends episode. And depending on your opinion of Friends and how quickly you turn it off, well, I'll leave the rest up to you to figure out. But Milo is going to use DRS, deploy ERS, as Thanasi pulls into the pit lane. There you go then. One person already made the moves into pit row, and that was Maximus in the Haas car. Thanasi changes from the soft tyres onto a set of yellow striped medium spheres. And what can he do now in his Red Bull car? Let's see where Maximus ends up in all of this. They've had a chance to use ERS, the front view, but the undercut is going to pay dividends. Maximus moves past Thanasi into P9, and well, actually Thanasi's not really lost time, so it's a good decent attempt at an overcut from Thanasi, it must be said. Give him his flowers where it's required. Absolutely. 6-car train up at the front now. The fun never ends. Milo, your new race leader. But again, it might not last very long. We're into lap 12 of the Dutch Grand Prix. And pit time has to come very soon. Thanasi and Maximus threatening with the undercut all the time. But if they pit now, they are less likely to be kicked in the gonads with that particular decision. So, will Milo and Buck 57 pull into the pit lane? Milo looks to be to the inside, and he is. Buck 57 not choosing to do so, though. Milo in and J-Lane in as well. McLaren and Stake Kick Bet365 Sauber gets to work. Milo with a clean pit stop, as is J-Lane, and they're out comfortably into the pit lane once again. No histrionics and no dramatics. Thanasi moves past Maximus. They head into turn 1, and Milo looks to be right on the coattails of this particular train. Thanasi moves up into provisional, possibly P1, when all is said and done. But Milo right on the back of the train. Hardly any of them, no matter undercut, overcut, regardless, you can throw it all away. It's hardly made a difference. I was going to say we got a race on our hands, but we've had a race all the way from the first corners. F124 never ceases to amaze me as a commentator. Never ceases to destroy my pedigree as a driver. Because it's terrible. Buck 57, your race leader. Will he elect to pit? He should do, really, if he has his synapses firing up. And indeed he does. He hugs it to the inside and into the pit lane he goes. Stark's had a little moment, by the way, while all of this is happening. 3 seconds behind the top two of now Terziak and Tim. For God's sake, what do you have to do, man, if your name doesn't begin with a T? What do you have to do? Honestly. Big swimmer, by the way, up into P4. Go on, lad. What a guy. On the hard tyres. And could still do some damage in this race. Hasn't lost a humongous amount of time to cars ahead. And still time for a safety car. Oh, yes, there is. Buck 57 emerges from the pit lane and is actually outside of DRS range of the cars ahead. So Thanasi leads this little train. Milo in P2 provisionally has made his way up past the American Dream. The Irish man of Maximus hasn't used that pot of gold to improve his standings. I mean, he certainly has improved his fortune, but only in a financial sense. In a metaphorical and categorical sense, it has not ignited whatsoever. Thanasi then going well, but Milo piling on the pressure all the time. 1 lap younger tyres. By the way, can I just say, no drivers have penalties this race so far. Well done, all of you. Action in the pit lane again. Terziak is in for Scuderia Ferrari. Into the box he goes, as does Stark, and Terziak's actually going to get held up. No, he isn't. It's an unsafe release from Ferrari. Lifetime ban. But it's going to be the soft tyres. Meanwhile, Milo, using the DRS, sweeps past into the lead. Thanasi holds the inside line and actually doesn't lose that much time. But Milo moves up into the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix. However, the soft runners can get to work. Terziak and Stark have made the call to put on the softest rubber ever, which in America means something very different. But luckily for them, they are not in America, so they are safe. Milo then, your net race leader. Only 1 car in the leading group left to pit, and it is Mr. Timbo. Only 2 other drivers yet to pit. Slam and Magico down in P9 and P12 respectively. 1 Mercedes right at the forefront. The other one holding the wooden spoon and clutching it very hard indeed so as not to butcher their own race. And I believe in him. I believe in all the drivers in the Blackout Racing League. And let's hope there's plenty of good racing still to go. The more that Tim Alele stays out on those hard tyres, the more he harms his own race and his own chances at a potential podium, maybe even better. But Thanasi has DRS this time. Milo defended the inside line a tiny bit, then Thanasi said, stuff that, I'm going to switch to the inside and make a lovely little move for P2 in this race. Net P1, Buck 57 meanwhile, keeping a good and consistent pace, not losing anything despite not having the use of flappage at his disposal. Slam and Magico into the pit lane then. It's the battle of the Ferrari and Mercedes pit crews. Slam out onto the track then. Magico making his way back out onto the track, and was that number, is that number 89? I think it was 89. Trying to find that out now. Was it 89? Can't tell from that angle. Is it 89? No, it's 69. Nice. Okay, cool. Tim Alele, your leader then, with a gap of 13 seconds, but crucially hasn't pit yet, possibly holding out for a safety car. He's doing the Dirk strategy. You can't do Dirk out on the racetrack. That is so illegal. Why would you think that? Thanasi in P2, Milo in P3, not electing to go for the move. Someone who is making moves, though, is this man. On the soft tyres, Terziak has a score to settle with the rest of the grid. Sprint race perhaps didn't go according to plan. Today, things have improved rather significantly, I would say, and now has a great chance of taking a podium place in this race. As long as he can stay within DRS, then he'll improve his fortunes drastically. Milo, though, in the Papaya Pros car, the number 1 Papaya Pros car out on the track, is making decent headway, using Thanasi to pull himself along here. And Big Sam said I had to humble Thanasi. Forget that. Milo has a great chance of doing that. Timalele, meanwhile, has pulled to the inside, and it is pit time for the Mercedes man. Pulls into the pit box. Tyres changed. It will be soft tyres, and I can confirm my controller does in fact rumble when the tyres get changed, no matter who I'm watching. That is so weird, but Terziak sets the fastest lap by a country mile and moves up into P3. Milo thought he was challenging for the lead and instead has to settle back into P2. So that's not gone particularly well, although he has significantly more battery to play with. Terziak, though, in P3 and can use those soft tyres to make great progress in reeling in the big fish up at the front, and a purple Sector 1 is only going to solidify and magnify that progress even further. Gap not really changing, though, although through those 2 corners it went down 2 tenths, and then through this corner it's probably going to go down by into another 10th. Good grief, that is quite quick. Okay, Terziak is on the charge then. Milo and Thanasi, what do you do? 7 tours to go of the Dutch Grand Prix track. Once they cross the line at the end of this lap, and they have to think very wisely about it. Terziak's almost within a second. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Milo moves up easily into P1. It's not even close. Terziak with yet another fastest lap to add to the pussycat. Loses 6 tenths just on the straight, but then gains 2 tenths just through the first corner. This is going to get interesting. Lap number 19 of the Dutch Grand Prix. Milo is your race leader, followed closely by Thanasi. Terziak is on the charge. And terrifically reeling in the cars ahead, down to 1.3 seconds towards the left-hander. Make that still 1.3 seconds. That's not a great set, whatever turn that is. I don't care. I haven't bothered to count. But if DRS is just going to pull the cars ahead away from him, but an aggressive entry and eager movements into that final part of Sector 2 will mean he almost has DRS. It's agonisingly close, but not close enough. DRS will be in the clutches of the Red Bull ahead, who will sweep to the inside and move back into the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix. Timalele with the fastest lap, the first man into the 1:10 10s. Good grief, a 1:10 10.8, that is mightily impressive. Still has 5 laps to do the damage in that Mercedes car. And the Mercedes Maestro making up places and gaining more points as we go on. If Terziak ever has had an opportunity to firmly assert himself into the DRS battle for the lead, this is it. Losing a bit of time, though, through the double right-hander. That is not part of the script. That is his view to the cars ahead. Holds it in 4th gear. Plant on the power. Early as you dare. He's within a second. Miller will still have a bit of DRS, but Terziak holds it in. The Flying Scotsman is now firmly in the fray. And he says to his fellow leaders, Archivanu, I am coming for you. To which they say, that's disgusting, lad. What the hell are you... Oh, yellow flag in Sector 3. Maximus has lost a part of his front wing and very quickly got out of the way of Big Sam and Buck 20, so kudos to him. But that is exactly not what he wanted to do in this Dutch Grand Prix. In fact, that's probably completely the opposite of what he wanted to do, and so he's going to relegate himself to the pit lane after meeting with Barry R and go for the fastest lap consolation instead. Three cars then have a big chance for the lead. Thanasi currently holds it. Last season's Dutch Grand Prix winner in the Blackout Racing League. Could claim yet another one here today, but he has Milo and Terziak to contend with to make sure he can properly make the difference and add, once again, not only to his tally, but etch his name firmly into the history books once again to increase his total number of wins in Zandvoort. But he's got 4 more tours at the end of this lap when he crosses the line to complete that feat. 2 rabid and ravenous Rottweilers right behind him. I called him a Wattweiler. Be careful, Milo's hunting wabbits and he's closing in all the time, but not close enough. What is the battery situation? As oh no! Our first penalty of the Dutch Grand Prix goes to Big Swimmer. Oh no. Anyway, the rest of the drivers are going to win a Clean Boy Award. Maybe Big Sam wins the Dirty Dog Award. That's an exclusive trophy that no one else has for the time being. Let's see if it can stay that way. Timalele, while all of this has been happening, has moved up into P4 on his soft tyres, 3 laps younger than Terziak's. And let's see what kind of fishing he can do. Can he pull in the full cod, or will it just have to be a slimy sardine? By the way, P4, considering how the sprint race went, is very much a 0 to hero moment for Timalele, who will keep on going and actually get a very decent result either way, no matter how the rest of this race pans out. Terziak, meanwhile, is right on the diffuser of Milo. That's almost restraining order worthy, burning the battery all the time. To the inside, the Flying Scotsman moves into P2, and there's only 1 car between himself and the top honours here in Zandvoort. Thought he was down and out when the 3-car train with him, Timalele and Stark now has the ultimate, the golden ticket. And the most optimistic opportunity now to get the job done and ruffle the feathers and hang on to the coattails of the Red Bull man. He has the chance of taking Thanasi's name out of the history books to make himself a Dutch Grand Prix winner. He managed to get P3 last season, but he's got a great chance now of being the difference maker for the Scuderia. It's been a sublime showing so far, but he can finally thrust himself into the ultimate supremacy. He has just 2 tours of the Dutch Grand Prix track. He's been saving the battery. He's going to start burning it now, that's for certain. So does Thanasi, though, and he burnt a little bit more than he might have otherwise wanted to, because Terziak, just such is the power of DRS and Slipstream round this track. He's close to within 2 tenths of Thanasi, burning about 20% of his battery just to keep the Ferrari at bay. Well, it's going to be nail-biting stuff. The intensity is heating up, the pot is at a boil, and the creamy cauldron of Formula 1 action is concocting a wonderful closing stage of the Dutch Grand Prix. Thanasi P1, Terziak P2, Milo P3, and look who's joined the end of this train, but not for long. He overcooks it, goes onto the grass, and now a trip through the sandbox. Those tyres are insanely dirty, and now Stark and co behind are brought back into play. I was about to send infinite praise the way of the Mercedes man and say he really has gone from 0 to hero, but that has put a dent in his superhero status, although Stark going wide will spare his blushes a tiny bit at least. But Terziak, this is his chance. The main straight, you knew he was going to go for this. Using the battery all the time. Thanasi might have just done enough. Terziak's going to go for the dive. Thanasi moves across to try and deter the Ferrari man. Wheel-to-wheel stuff. Wheel banging all the way. But the Flying Scotsman has moved into P1. A wonderful move. It's brash. It's aggressive. Maybe he barged his way through a little bit, but that gap, Thanasi tried to close it. Terziak said, no, you don't, sir. I paid the full mortgage and full complement to own that corner. And he goes through into P1, but Thanasi is not done yet. He has a chance, perhaps, to the inside, but it doesn't happen for him. There is still time, though, for the Red Bull driver through the left-hander. Can he get a good exit? Terziak deploying the battery all the time. The Energizer Bunny is crying with contempt, but he's done enough, surely. Surely he's done enough. The history books have had to be erased. Terziak is going to do it for Ferrari, but it's going to be a photo finish and DRS and battery to the line. Who's going to win this? To the line we go. It's oh so close, but Terziak wins the Dutch Grand Prix in the dying moments, the creaking embers of the closing stages. He holds on by just over half a tenth to win the Dutch Grand Prix. What a late move. What a supreme showing from the Scuderia. He's done it again. And Terziak, who is chasing Timalele in the championship, has done a perfect job today. And Timalele actually lost a place to Stark. In all of that, meanwhile, Slam up ahead is going to cross the line. And does he run out of fuel? Oh, it's contact towards the line. A bit of bump drafting. A good showing from the two Irish drivers. A moment of sportsmanship there. It's reminiscent of the Cars movie. And Magico, congratulations, my friend. You survived and you didn't get lapped. What a job. And somehow I still have a voice. Oh my god. What a race again. F1 24 knows no limits to some of the wonderful racing. In the end, the Italian stallion had the legs over the Raging Bull. And that is what made the ultimate difference at the very end. It is hot and sweaty in this room, but that's because emanating from this broadcast has been the ultimate heat of competition. Your podium then. Terziak's done it. Thought for most of the race probably that he was out of it. But kept cool, kept composed, proceeded with caution, and then threw that caution straight into the skip. At the final lap in the first corner, that was his big chance, and he took it. So well. Thanasi in P2 will feel that that move was too aggressive, that Terziak rudely opened the door by himself. Maybe some of you will say Terziak got a bit lucky with battles up ahead, but you create your own luck in this sport. Milo again on the podium, by the way, Mr. Consistent. Congratulations to you, sir. That is an absolutely wonderful job that you've done. Oh, Slam took you out, I see. Magico only making the one mistake then. That's why. Otherwise, you would have been right up there. I tip my hat off to you, sir. The work is paying off. And I hope you can see that, because it truly is paying off. Wow. What a race at the Dutch Grand Prix. Oh my goodness me. Back to standby we go. I'm surprised I still have a voice left. I went lightheaded after that race. Possibly because I haven't drank enough water. That was unbelievable. Kudos to all the drivers. They all finished the race. Only one driver with a time penalty, that being Big Swimmer in the end. But otherwise, what an incredible event in Zandvoort. Terziak takes top honours. Thanasi for second. Milo in third. Stark took P4 in the end, leaving Timalele with only the complement of fifth place points rather to his name. English is eluding me. I do apologise, but when you've seen a race like that, words hardly know how to form. That is the truth. Well, there we are then, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a tiny little bit of a break while I stock up on some water and while the drivers get their practice in for the next race, which I can confirm, after a race like that, who knows what the Temple of Speed is going to throw up for us. J-Lane says, it was an honor to be in the P1 to P5 train on softs. Again, great job from you, sir. You did very, very well indeed. It's a great race overall. F124 knows how to cook up good racing, and I am all for it. A commentator's dream all the way through. Whew. And now I'm going to get some water. Oh my, you did not do 0-0 wings. God's sake, man. I love it. It's just that hold in the pit lane. I said there was a bit of a hold in the pit lane for someone. I thought it was going to be for Stark, but no, it was for you. I'm so sorry. Otherwise, that would have been very, very interesting indeed. Still good points, though. Well, the Dutch Grand Prix is done and dusted. The Italian Grand Prix is on the horizon. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because it is going to be a gripping spectacle. Few minutes of a break. Don't miss out, everybody, because soon we zoom over to the Temple of Speed.
Superhero.
gentlemen, it's perfect timing because it's time to go for qualifying. Because it's the Italian Grand Prix. Oh, yes. We are back, this time at the Temple of Speed, after I've somewhat recovered from what was an utterly chaotic yet rather cracking Dutch Grand Prix. We now head to Monza, where my voice can be spared a tiny bit at least, until the end of qualifying, where mayhem will ensue at Monza, and then someone will get pole position by 1,000th, and it will be between Thanasi, Terziak, Timalele, Milo, and maybe a couple of others. I'm not sure yet, but we'll find out. Will there be a safety car? I'm not sure. Was there a safety? Oh, there was a safety car last time. We did Blackout last season, wasn't there? I'm not entirely sure, honestly. I am not entirely sure. I would hazard a guess at saying yes, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. Qualifying time then for the Italian Grand Prix. And once again, I can see the teams. I'm a happy bunny. I don't know how I live in a house. I always hit the ceiling. It hurts my head. Wait patiently for the first driver to emerge from the pit lane. And it won't be Dirkleton because he's not here. So I'm going to make a guess. I'm going to make an educated guess and say Big Swimmer is going to be joining first. Oh, wow, I'm actually a visionary. Big Sam joined first. Who would have believed it? It's like he's done that a million times before. Anyway, out of the pit lane we go. Actually, what technically is V-Carb MasterCard Contactless Apple Pay's home Grand Prix. Although, after crossing the white line, some say V-Carb employees do like to cross different white lines, but not the ones you're thinking of. On the outlap then at the Italian Grand Prix, the good news is there is plenty of time to set laps in this session. So if you do end up cutting corners or extending too much, the lap is so short that it doesn't really matter. Whereas at tracks previously, like with Spa last week, you can ill afford to do that because the track is so long that you end up having to do a full 2 minutes to then get back round, and then you've wasted what is essentially a ninth of that qualifying session just doing another outlap and cooldown. It's not good. But Big Swimmer is going to be, and by a country mile, our first proper look at the Italian Grand Prix track, whereas Mr. Stark just emerging from the pit lane now, and we'll see what each of the drivers can do in this shootout. So, on board with the V-Carb we go. I will let you enjoy the symphony of V6 turbo hybrid noise for one lap of the Italian Grand Prix. A nice clean lap of the Italian Grand Prix. It's a 1 minute 20.9 to get the ball rolling. I will say upon assessment it was a little bit conservative into Ascari. Plenty more pace to find. But either way, a good benchmark for the rest of the grid to try and follow up. Let's get some lap data enabled as well. With Stark is now on a lap, and he's set a purple Sector 1. Rather disjointed. Usually a lot of drivers are setting laps right at the beginning of the session. That is not the case here in Monza. DRS wide open as we hurtle down the hill and then towards the Ascari chicane. How aggressive is Stark? Much more aggressive on that curb, but probably switching down one gear too many. I'd say fifth gear is the optimal way to go. And then you just floor it on the throttle. Pray that the car will stick and let the aerodynamic grip try and recover the rest. But there's only so much you can do on this particular game. Meanwhile, through Parabolica, or Alboreto curve as it's sometimes called, across the line, it's provisional pole position for Mr. Stark. A 1 minute 20.5. Next man on a lap is Maximus, and this makes my life very easy when it comes to assessing who's on a lap and who isn't, because hardly anyone's starting them at the same time. Which is great news for me, as Terziak and Milo just starting laps there, crossing the line. Milo rather wisely there, you can see on the minimap, has actually used Terziak as a bit of a horse to his carriage, using that slipstream, slurping that up in order to find the sublime settings towards Ascari. How aggressive is Maximus? Fifth gear, that's more like it. He's my guy for pole position here then. The number 7 car, sporting the late Kimi Räikkönen. He's not dead, he just hasn't raced in Formula 1 since 2021. Through the final corner at Parabolica. Hug the inside and then sweep it out as you plant on the power. Pretty much binary inputs at some stages. Across the line, though, it is not going to be pole position. It was a purple Sector 1. In fact, it's not quicker than Big Sam even. Teetering on the edge of the 1 minute 21s, but J-Lane, what can he do? Across the line he goes, moves ahead of Maximus, only 6 thousandths in it, but he moves ahead of Maximus nonetheless. Terziak should be next across the line, if not it's Buck 57, no it isn't, because that's Stanasi on, no it isn't, oh it is Stanasi, just starting a lap, there you go. Hugging the inside is Terziak, then across the line he goes, it's P2. Milo has absolutely demolished the lap time. The first man into a 1 minute 19. The man who's 7/10 ahead of his next closest competitor of Stark. And that possibly proves just how powerful the slipstream is. His teammate Buck 20 into P4, almost 1.1 seconds behind. That is a statement from the McLaren man. A huge statement. Thanasi, meanwhile, using this as practice, clearly, because he's invalidated already. He's just getting his eye in. It's just not fun, really, is it? He uses qualifying as practice, and then goes and bangs in a pole position worthy lap. What do you do? Honestly, what do you do? Bug 57 out of the Parabolica, his first lap time in this qualifying session, and it's a 1 minute 21.2. It is last of the runners so far in this session. Thanasi, of course, won't set a lap time, and neither will Stark for that matter. I imagine he'll come into the pit lane, and indeed he does. At full speed, knocks down the speed limit sign. Rest in peace, polystyrene board. Or rather, should I say, rest in pieces. Thanasi through the first 2 corners then. Very aggressive on that second curb. Much more aggressive than I thought anyone would dare to be, but it turns out he does dare to dream. So there you are. Towards La Roja chicane. Clip 1, clip 2. Get the car straightened out, and that is very nicely done indeed. Into Lesmo 1. And then, as a famous YouTuber said, into Lesbian 2. Flicks it in just like he flicks. I'm not going to continue that sentence, but it was very well done nonetheless. Under the bridge, under the old racetrack, the oval at Monza, and into Ascari. How fast do you dare to be? The answer is extremely. 6th gear, keeps it within track limits, and that was commitment and bravery right on the money. And will he reap the rewards of his bravery, determination, and grit? You are about to find out, just like me. Through the Parabolica, shortest line of attack is not fulfilled, and that's because he hasn't used battery. And that's not fun, is it? He hasn't used any battery, and he's only 4 tenths off his teammate. Maybe his teammate didn't use battery either. Alternatively, his teammate's going for a spot of lawn mowing, which is not the way to improve your lap time. Magico, though, is on a lap and going into the second, well, the Roja chicane. He's purple in Sector 1. Jesus Christ. Through Lesmo 1, and that was very nicely taken indeed, as he heads into Lesmo 2. Keep it within track limits, and he does. Perhaps too early on the turn-in, I don't know for certain. I went on board at the wrong time, but into Ascari we go. Magico pushing for all his worth. Breaks at the 100-meter board. No, well, it's too early, but he knows it's too early. So next time he does a hot lap, he knows he can throw it in later than that, possibly halfway in between the 150-meter boards. It's all a learning process at the same time in qualifying. You can dare to brake just a little bit later. A nice parabolica for the Mercedes driver. And across the line, he will go for his first lap of the day. And he is in the 1-minute 22s. Comfortably and nicely done. Timalele through La Roja. The 26.267 and now through Lesmo 1. Accompanied soon by Lesmo 2. Keeps it in the confines of track limits and takes it very nicely indeed. Now DRS, foot to the floor and pray your car can just cut through the air as much as possible and give you just a few more meters per second in top speed. It's a purple Sector 2. It's looking good for St. German. As long as he keeps... My God, that was really close to invalidating that lap time. But he keeps it together. 7 minutes left in his qualifier. That has gone very quickly. Good grief. Because of how disjointed the drivers were in setting their lap times, probably. But narrow line of attack towards the line. Timalele will go using everything he can. He moves into P2. And that is without slipstream at his disposal. So that is a very, very good lap indeed. And he'll be pretty pleased with himself, I'd say. Slam, meanwhile, was on a lap as well. Into P9, ahead of the... Oh, God! His brakes have failed. That's the only explanation I have for that one. Apart from that was quite funny. But there you go. Meanwhile, drivers are on lap times. J-Lane was one of them. However, as there's all sorts of tyre squealing in the pit lane, he has invalidated his lap time. What could have been a mid 1-minute 20s is not to be. And into the pit lane goes... Oh, no! J-Lane's crashed into the pit lane entry. And that tyre has gone for a run. Oh, my goodness me. It's hurtled down the main straight. And that's going to be a huge hazard. Not least for Terziak, who was about to start his flying lap. And, well, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually let this flying lap go. He heads into the first chicane, though. It looks like he is pushing it in third gear. The revs dulled down very, very, very low indeed. And there's some drama in this qualifying session. J-Lane misjudging it, or perhaps just getting his tyre sheared off for the sake of it. Either way, that was very interesting. Into the pit lane, and Timalele makes an overtake on the Ferrari driver of Slam into the pits. That was very fun to watch indeed. Meanwhile, there's a Red Bull on a lap. Was 8 tenths up, and he's had a moment, obviously, because 1, he's invalidated, and 2, he's going very slowly. Evidence. Terziak's only 11 thousandths up on his time. It's a purple Sector 2. He's 4 tenths up, make that. Pardon me. And the man who inadvertently let Milo have the ultimate slipstream is going, yet again, for another lap without slipstream. No tactics being deployed by teammates, which I'm seeing very interesting indeed. But whatever the case, up to the line goes Mr. Terziak. Across it he goes, and good grief, that is very close. That is mightily impressive, even without slipstream, into the 1-minute 19s. He breaches that barrier, and he's just 400ths underneath it. But you know what? Not sure how much time's left. There's a yellow flag because of the McLaren. 4 minutes. You know what? He actually does have time to get back into the pit lane, strap on a set of new soft tyres, and go again. And really put himself in the conversation for pole position as Maximus starts another flying lap but goes wide at turn 1. Like I say, it's all a learning process in qualifying as well. You dare to brake just that tiny bit more. Mere millimeters make all the difference between making the apex and being a hero and going and sailing wide. As a result, 7/10 down, and oh no! Big lawn mowing from the Haas driver, who's clearly not happy with that turn of events. So then, who else is on the lap? It was Visa Cash App Sam. Across the line, into P4 he goes. Pretty much half a second off pole position, but nicely done from Visa Cash App contactless car. Well done to the Google Pay driver. Mr. Millo, though, was on a lap, but he's 1 second down already. And perhaps using this opportunity, there is a debate as to whether doing one push lap beforehand to heat your tyres up a little bit more is the way to go. And Millo weaving all the while, so perhaps, yes, putting that myth to the test. Tonight, though, on Meth Bust, can Millo use this extra tyre warm-up lap in order to supplement growth in his lap time? That is the question, and we'll have the answers very, very soon indeed. The lap times will be coming in thick and fast, ladies and gentlemen. The first driver out on the track on a lap was Buck57, but that is an invalidation, and he will have another chance to get a lap in, but it's not what he wanted. He basically drained the battery, sent the Energizer Bunny into a section ward. Unfortunately, though, that Energizer Bunny has resuscitated himself, and he has no choice but to resuscitate the Energizer Bunny because he invalidated his lap. So then it falls to Mr. Magico, who then cuts the first part of Ascari, and that puts paid to that one. Equally, though, a little bit of battery still left, and timing-wise, I'm trying to see how much time there is. It would be lovely if I could see what lap times were there. Millo's 2 seconds down again. And it turns out on Meth Bust, we're doing 2 heating up laps this time. As Big Swimmer retires from the session, he's done everything he feels like he can and will go no higher than P4. But a valiant effort nonetheless. Buck57 through Parabolica then. Is he deploying the battery? No, he's not. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he went straight on at the first chicane. Nope, takes the first chicane. He's actually going to go for it here. Has got his battery up to 100% and is deploying it a tiny bit. There's a trickle of deployment as he goes down this straight. Millo actually starting his final flying lap. Our current pole sitter, but there are many, many hungry hammerhead sharks who will eat that blood for breakfast, should they get the opportunity and the chance. Stark is the first driver, other than Buck20, obviously, who's on a lap himself, and it's 3 attempts down. And that will not do, but he has 50 seconds to recharge and go again. Stark is also 8 attempts down. Again, using this heat-up lap, to be honest. They're all trying to use an extra lap to heat up their tyres and then see what they can do. Buck57 has gone through Ascari and has invalidated yet again, and will have another opportunity because he has used this lap to charge his battery. Hardly anyone is doing lap times. Magico, though, is. Behind him, we have a Ferrari on an... Oh, no, never mind. Timalele's on the outlap. Timalele's ahead of him, in fact. Magico in plenty of crisp, clean air. And what can his final contribution to this qualifying session be? Throttle the overtake, my friend. Use it up. You've earned it. And no, he's not going to complete it. It wasn't the lap time he desired. In fact, I'm surprised in some ways he didn't go for a lap. But either way, Thanasi goes across the line, and it will be P5 when all is said and done. That's the first lap, and now we will see what the other competitors have at their disposal. Slam will take no further part. His run is done in qualifying. Buck20, well, Millo's coming to the pits. There's no chance of him improving. So there you go, Slipstream is king then. Who would believe it? That is unbelievable news. Maximus is a 10th up, going down towards Parabolica. What sort of improvement has he managed to garner up? If he does a 10th, he'll be up into P7 at least. Across the line he goes. It's more than that. It's half a second. Maximus up into P5. But there are still times are tumbling. Stark 4/10 up and can improve that even more. Through the final corner, there's so many cars to come across the line. Him, Buck 57, Timalele, and more. Stark moves up into P3 with a 1 minute 19.9. Buck 57 can't improve hugely. Timalele, 5 thousandths off. Terziak, 400ths off. Milo is on pole position for the Italian Grand Prix. I said it, didn't I? Albeit I did say 1,000th, but mere thousandths in it to decide pole position. And that's exactly what has decided pole position in this race. Milo takes top honours in qualifying. That first slipstream lap was enough to make and claim the ultimate prize. Timalele agonisingly close, just 5 thousandths in it. But when push comes to shove, Milo pushes and shoves his way onto top spot in this shootout. A wonderful effort from the McLaren driver. Timalele claims P2, my apologies. Terziak P3, Stark P4, the top four, all within a 10th. Big Sam P5, congratulations to him. Maximus P6, Thanasi could only muster P7. Buck 57 P, in fact, it's the battle of the Bucks, and Buck 57 has won. He's in P8, Buck 20's in P9. J-Lane rounds out the top 10 with Slam and Magico in P11 and 12. Although for J-Lane, it was rather dramatic as he made contact with the pit wall, shearing off his front left, and it's even more dramatic because it is raining for the Italian Grand Prix. Very lightly, it's very fine rain. And will it be a slick tyre start? Will it be intermediate? I would suspect it's intermediate tyres, but stranger things have happened on this game. Well, that throws the cat amongst the pigeons. And in the dry, I was sceptical as to whether there'd be a safety car. Here, there's a higher chance, I'd say. Wet weather driving doesn't feel like driving, more like you're driving a swan round the track. Or a very raggedy goose. So who really knows what's going to happen here? I'm surprised the Paddock Club haven't got their umbrellas out. What a stupid idea. They're willing to get, you know what, actually, they're dedicated fans because they're willing to get drenched just to watch F1 cars. And that is quite something. That really is. We wait patiently then for proceedings to get underway at the Temple of Speed, which today has seen its speed somewhat sliced as the rain has arrived. But even so, it will be action-packed. There will be plenty of battles. There will be drama. There will be showstoppers. There will be gobstoppers. Because the Italian Grand Prix is on the horizon. 5 red lights! Lights out and away we go, and it's a start on the slick tyres. That is mightily surprising, but even Stevens at the start between Milo and Timalele. Terziak versus Stark on the second row, using the soft tyres. There's a moment. Magico is spun round. What on earth's gone on there? There's a 10-second time penalty. Immediately, Milo and Big Sam caught out by the track limits. There's a yellow flag through Sector 1. Big Swimmer up into P2, but with a 10-second time penalty to his name. Timalele and Terziak gunning effectively for the race lead and have to be so careful. Gingerly making their way through La Roja. Contact made. Aggression at the highest order. And Timalele keeps P3. Ferrari a fourth. What on earth? Slammers at the start of the century. Oh my god. Slammers pulverised the opposition. Thanasi has the sinking feeling. He's moving up into P9 past his teammate. But drama already at the start of this Italian Grand Prix. Slicks in the rain. The rain is fine, so it shouldn't really evolve into anything else. But good grief. What drama already. I didn't think it'd be in the first. There you go. 2 10-second time penalties. That's not ideal. At least for their sake, it isn't drive-through. So if Milo can get a move on, and uses experience and his driving consistency to good effect. As Thanasi's making moves down the inside of Parabolica, the car dancing away at the rear as he tries to pile on the power. Timalele with the true fastest lap of this Grand Prix with a 1:37.0 because of these two penalty merchants up at the front. Buck 20, meanwhile, is not done with Thanasi. He saw Thanasi dance his way through at Parabolica. He's trying to slalom his way round the first chicane, but Thanasi gives him the cold shoulder, and now the elbows are out. Buck 20 sends himself to the inside as Buck 57 moves up into P9. There's a moment at turn number 1. Magico is not loving these conditions whatsoever, and I do not blame him for 1 second. Big Sam's had a moment, meanwhile. He's down into P8 behind Buck 57. He's actually made it past Thanasi, but look, Big Sam's struggling so much, and Thanasi accepts that invitation. He says, thank you very much, but a huge slide out of Lesmo too. And Big Sam will immediately rescind that invitation. We'll try and say, that's my position, friend. Give it back. But no, not to be. There seems to be huge contact that Maximus made. Perhaps again, Magico, his bad luck streak continues. He actually made contact with Slam on his right rear. Slam cut back in, and there was just nowhere that Magico could go. It's really unfortunate. And maybe it's happened again at the start of this race. We'll have to find out very soon. Milo, though, is controlling things up at the front. Slicks in the rain. Many others' pain is his gain. He's already got the gap to 4 seconds. So that is mightily impressive from the McLaren man. It's a Ferrari 3-4. The Tifosi are jumping for joy. And they're trying to apply any kind of pressure to Timalele in the Mercedes. Stark in P5. And it's an interesting debate as to what tyres work best in these uncertain conditions. As Magic goes up into P10, Big Sam is making the bold call to go onto the intermediate tyres already on lap number 3. So we will see if this gamble has paid off. You can see a slight sheen developing on the racing line as he goes out of the first chicane. Has Big Sam played a blinder? Well, he hasn't, I can confirm. Served his penalty. So has he really played a blinder? I'm surprised they didn't serve his penalty by default, but we're going to see through the second Roja chicane if he is making inroads on Magico, and he is making inroads on Magico. I'm seeing what Magico's progress is like compared to the cars ahead. It's not that far off. Big Sam's catching up big time. The intermediates could already look to be the better tyre, and everybody else had better be taking note of that. Milo through Parabolica. Is he going to go in for the intermediates? No, he's not. He's gained a second on Timalele up ahead and still setting fastest laps of the Grand Prix. Big Sam, though, comfortably makes a move through Ascari. Thanasi now takes the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he's side by side with Stark. Down the main straight, in towards turn 1, and Thanasi makes a comfortable pass into P5. Buck 57, his Red Bull teammate. It's gloves off stuff and elbows out between him, J-Lane, and Buck 20. The Kick Sauber car moves up into P7, but on board with the Red Bull man we go. Using that slipstream a tiny bit. Making inroads, gaining still, and that's very late on the brakes. A huge lock-up. Thanasi now past Slam, who's made a mistake into La Roja. And what was the sinking feeling at the start? He's ascending almightily. P4 belongs to the Red Bull man. And he didn't get the win last time out of the Dutch Grand Prix. It was dramatic scenes at the end of the race. But he's put that behind him, and he's looking to make the impression of a lifetime here. Big Sam then, 17.6 seconds behind, now down to 17.4. I am watching carefully as to how quickly he decreases that gap. Also, whether that gap continues decreasing, because if it isn't wet enough for the intermediate tyres, he might well goose his intermediate rubber. We'll see what the fastest laps of the Grand Prix continue to be, if they even come down. Miller has not set one, but Thanasi might. Seems to be the master of these conditions. Across the line he goes, and no new fastest lap. Big Sam is catching, actually at quite a rapid rate, to Buck 20 up ahead. The second alone on this lap. And has he just played a blinder? He might well have done. It's like still teetering in between, but intermediates are the stronger tyre. Slick's still working though, and Big Sam there confirming what we all have just seen on the left-hand side of our screens. A fastest lap by a second into the 1 minute 29. He is pulverising those Pirellis, but equally making very, very good progress. His tyres will be older than the competition's. Make no mistake about that. But he'll have a great undercut, and that's a big slide from Thanasi through Lesmo 1. That was a humongous slide. Milo, meanwhile, offsetting his 10-second penalty. Just a little bit. He's 7.1 seconds clear. Milo driving like a man possessed. He's got that 10-second penalty next to him. Thinks, well, I've got nothing to lose. And throwing caution to the wind. Again, the rain is many people's pain. It's Milo's gain here. 7.5 seconds almost the lead he has at this Italian Grand Prix. And again, will he choose to go in for the intermediate tyres? The answer to that is no. Again, Big Sam gaining a second on this lap. Many drivers still feeling like it's not advantageous enough to strap those intermediate tyres on. Terziak, meanwhile, could be the man on the move and in front of the Tifosi, who will roar him on. Let the atmosphere ignite even more. The Silver Arrows versus the Prancing Horse. And the Italian Stallion gallops its way into P2. And the Flying Scotsman now has one car between himself and the supreme position to be at his home Grand Prix, his team's home Grand Prix at least. But he's got 8 seconds worth of a deficit to make up. Like I say, Milo is driving out of his skin currently. Lap number 6 of the Italian Grand Prix, and Buck 57 has had a moment. It's not a moment involving barrier, but it is a slide nonetheless, and it's just pride damage and emotional damage that will be at the Red Bull's detriment. Big Sam on the move. Meanwhile, Timalele and Thanasi going hammer and tong. Thanasi gets through at Ascari. Timalele has a tank slapper meanwhile. And that really slaps him down into P4. As you can probably tell, a yellow flag in Sector 2. Magico is loathing these intermediate, not intermediate conditions. Big Sam, meanwhile, what was a 14-second gap to the nearest car, would have been 13, but now is only 8.5 seconds. A small tail of spray beginning to emerge at the back of the V-Carb car. And at the back of that Red Bull car, which we just saw. This is developing into an interesting dynamic now. Terziak, by the way, not making inroads, which leaves the loyal Italian fans feeling rather disgruntled. Many spaghettis being snapped in half. And Terziak will be strapped to a Parmesan cheese wheel and rolled down Mont Blanc as a good skiing destination. Anyway. Actually, no. Roll him down the Dolomites. That's probably a much eager punishment. Thanasi's got a great exit into Lesmo 1 on board with the Greek god himself sliding and trying to wrestle control of the Red Bull. But he just about manages it. Milo already with a 10-second gap up at the front of this race. This is not a drill. Buck 57 with another mistake means Big Sam licking his lips. Now only 5 seconds behind his next closest competitor. It's getting tasty here at lap number 7 of this race. J-Lane on the move though, inside of Ascari, and that's a corner car if I've ever seen one. That's also a mistake. Right there in front of your very eyes. Visualised in excruciating detail for Stark. He ships 2 positions down into P8 now. I think J-Lane would have used one of his very generous corner cutting tokens there. And he's going to have to be very careful now in order to not get himself a time penalty in this race. Mr. Milo, your man up front, the gap 9 seconds. And if the race finished as it was, he'd finish P2 because Terziak, now, as he comes out of the first chicane, is still not 10 seconds behind. False alarm, everybody. Oh, he is now. There you go. 10 seconds out of his next closest car, and Stark is now making a call. He's actually going onto the hard tyres, not onto the intermediates. Now, that is very interesting. Perhaps the momentum is shifting back in favour of the dry tyres. Buck 57, though, clearly not feeling that way. And the intermediate runner of Big Swimmer runs rings round the Red Bull car. The senior team done in by its sister. And that's not a sentence you'd ever thought I'd say or broadcast. Imagine that. But Big Swimmer up into P8 and making decent progress away from the Red Bull driver on his intermediate tyres. Lap number 8 of the Italian Grand Prix. Your leader is Milo by just under 9 seconds. Thanasi chipping away at it slowly but surely, but it is not being chipped away at enough. Terziak in P3, Timalele in P4 within a second. But of course, there is no DRS for obvious reasons, and so that's not happening. Slam was in P5, but coming into the pits to change tyres, perhaps to ward off the threat of the undercut, or perhaps to switch onto it. No, he hasn't switched onto intermediate tyres. It's just to ward off the threat of the undercut from Monsieur Stark. And so onto the hard tyres he goes, as does Buck 57 into the pits. Hard tyres being strapped on his car. And still all the time watching Big Sam's progress on those intermediate tyres. Rather interesting. It's sort of at a limbo currently. He's just teetering under 9 seconds. But it's not really being cut down aggressively enough. In fact, if anything, I'd say the rain is subsiding. Oh! Now that makes things interesting. Thanasi has used up his corner cutting tokens. So much so that the stewards have said, "You've run out of credit, my friend," and have given him a 3-second time penalty. So that brings a bit of breathing space to Mr. Milo, who now can afford to have Thanasi outside of 7 seconds, which he is at the moment, and still have a good chance at winning this Italian Grand Prix. Meanwhile, in the event of interesting dynamics, J-Lane now up to 5th, which is great news for him. Buck 20, though, hot on his heels, in hot pursuit, and looking to try and gazump the green machine. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2. It's not Magico with a mistake. Maximus has hit Barrier again here, and he's going into Barrier again. A second peck on the cheek, and Barrier has rejected his advances. Plenty of time for him to reset onto the track, but he has Milo coming up behind him at a rapid rate of knots, and he's going to have to be careful. Both end plates and a significant chunk of the left-hand side of the front wing missing. Although, perhaps trying to make his car more boat-like in the rainy conditions is not a bad idea. That looked like DRS enabled, and Big Sam has decided enough is enough. Onto the hard tyres he goes. And I still don't think he served his penalty after all of that. Which means if you're Milo and Thanasi and you've weathered the storm, DRS has now been enabled, the stewards think it's dry enough, and you're in the hot seat. Timalele, meanwhile, while all of this has happened, is up into P3 past Terziak, but a dosage of DRS is exactly what the Ferrari man will want in his conquest. I don't know what it is. The Monza Mauling. There you go. At this Italian horse course, because that's effectively what it is. In fact, if they use the oval, it might as well be a horse course. Buck 20 has sat patiently behind J-Lane for a while now. Hasn't been able to get the move done, but DRS will be used now. And it will give him the prime chance as Terziak pulls into the pit lane. So the game's coming out in the strategy department. The mediums are well past their best now as my controller goes on strike while the tyres are changed. No thanks. But onto the hard tyres he goes. A fresh set of hard boots. Steel toe caps. And he's going to kick his opposition to the curb. At least he hopes so. Slam with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Stark promptly takes that away from him. Terziak emerges out onto the track ahead of his Ferrari teammate and counterpart, but goes wide at the first corner. Remember, these tyres stone cold at this particular point, and Slam will probably try and get in DRS while all of this is happening, but, well, there's no team orders at Ferrari, clearly, because Terziak sends the Energizer Bunny into a strangulation ward, and that's not fun. Gap at the front has come down quite a bit, though. The rain has gone, And Thanasi is upping the ante. 7.5 seconds. He's only half a second away from being the leader of this Grand Prix. And that will be very nice for him. Milo having a little bit of a slide out of Parabolica. Has a comfortable margin. Doesn't have to do anything. Doesn't have to be overzealous. No histrionics. No overzealousness. Thanasi now setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on 11 lap old hards. Like I say, upping the wick. The pot is boiling, and he was briefly within 7.5 seconds of Milo. Jaylee, meanwhile, up into P3 because Timalele and Buck20 are into pit row. New hard tyres, and surely new hard tyres. Yes, they are indeed. Thanks, controller, again for going on strike. And out into the race they go, comfortably. But where will they emerge? Stark setting a new fastest lap at 1:26.4. Buck20 way behind the pair of them. And Slam and Stark are going at it almost. DRS enabled, of course, and DRS being used at Stark's disposal. A switchback, though. Slam makes a mistake. Crafty racing from the Williams driver. And it's cool, collected, composed, and cracking from Stark. Into P6, the Williams team, the lone Williams Ranger, now can set his sights on Terziak and Timbo up ahead. Look how much Kirby uses. Good grief. That is so much curb. Meanwhile, Magico also pit, by the way. He's on a fresh set of medium tyres. And pushing as hard as he dares. You love to see it. Milo remains out on the track. So should Thanasi, really, because it's not time to pull into the pits. To go on to the mediums. Not even halfway through this race. Unbelievably. Slam, though, will be looking to make amends in front of his home crowd, in front of the adoring Ferrari fans. The fastest laps ticking down all the time. Maximus taking that fastest lap. But soon it will be Terziak or Timalele, I suspect. And I suspect also that Timalele will go for the move here. Such is the length of the straight. Such is the battery, the DRS, the slipstream that he has. He doesn't even need to deploy DRS. He's already through. Into P4 goes the Mercedes driver. Meanwhile, Ferrari do have something to cheer about, albeit only briefly, as Slam is the latest person inducted into the 10 seconds penalty Hall of Fame, as he has to cut the first chicane, can't get the car slowed down in time, and it's cost him dearly. Oh dear. Up at the front though, Milo and Thanasi. Thanasi really is just controlling his pace, and he's doing extremely well at it. Taking tenths a lap out of Milo's advantage up at the front now. It's going to be crunch time for Milo. Does he have any pace left? Well, he has a fastest lap in his pocket, but what does Thanasi have? He's caught up by a few tenths this lap. He has a far... Good grief! 8 tenths of a second in his pocket on this lap. It's getting ominous. Timalele seems to have the outright pace on Terziak, and actually the Ferrari driver deploying a bit of battery, trying to get within the detection point, and he's not within it. If he is, he's so close. It's millimetric precision. There's nothing in it as he crosses the DRS line. Does he have it? No, he doesn't. And Maximus has got a 10-second time penalty. Welcome to the 10-second penalty Hall of Fame at the Italian Grand Prix, my friend. Meanwhile, penalties for Slam. And his depression is only getting bigger because Stark is through into P6. And these two really just swapping their own DRS, using each other's pace to try and get themselves onto this little horse and carriage between Timalele and Terziak. Just over halfway through the Italian Grand Prix then. Milo, your leader, but 6.3 seconds is the gap. Thanasi down by half a second, it would seem. And looking for more. Perhaps Milo was pushing, and that's why, as Maximus is out of the Grand Prix, it's a safety car. And that really changes things. Will Milo have the chance to serve his penalty? Yes, he will. And that will actually negate the effect of it because of the safety car. Everyone having to drive to a delta. That looks like Magico into the pit lane. Everyone else so far behind. Yes, Thanassi will take the lead of the Grand Prix, but Milo has been thrown a huge, luscious lifeline as he will keep P2 and comfortably keep P2 as he emerges out on the track. No cars ahead of him. J-Lane as well then will get 1,000 smile service, and as he exits out onto the track, he finds himself, ladies and gentlemen, for the Sauber team in P5. We love to see it, and it's played into his hands very well. Also playing into Milo's hands even better as Maximus he leaves the session. I don't blame him. I too would be just as livid. But Milo, it's even better news for him. Thanassi, of course, with that 3-second time penalty. And you can't serve track limits penalties in the pit lane, so he is stuck on 3 seconds worth of penalties. Milo has an open goal to properly ascertain himself as the true candidate for the top step. And could it slip through Thanassi's fingers once again here? That would be terrible news, but tremendous timing for the McLaren man, for Tim Alele, for Terziak behind, even for J-Lane now. With a few laps fresher tyres than those ahead of him, finds himself in the hot seat. We are behind the safety car, so I am going to take this time to get some water and rest my lightheadedness, because I'm still lightheaded. That's probably not a good thing, but I'm pushing through nonetheless, because either I'm a true professional or an idiot, or both. Either way, don't really care. I love this too much to curtail it, so I'm not going to. So, behind the safety car for a little bit, we'll ride on board with Thanassi, and you might as well, because there's not a lot to see. But enjoy a lap behind the green machine, the Aston Martin Aramco Formula 1 Team F1 car official, around the Italian Grand Prix as the sun emerges and a ray of hope shines onto the blackout grid. Oh, interesting. Thanassi's moved out of the way, and that's because... By the way, I'm back, everyone. Hello. Because Magico is unlapping himself. So, great news for the Mercedes driver. He'll be back on the lead lap and able to go about his own race in a great way. And Magico's got a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Game, that is not fair. I just want to say that now. That is not fair. Safety car is in this lap. Magico will have a chance to run his way round the Italian Grand Prix circuit, but Thanassi is the one that will control the pace, and that got called extremely late. And so he doesn't have much time to figure out when to put the power down, but he does it now. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back racing at the Italian Grand Prix, and Milo will have to have his wits about him, because Tim Alele, Terziak are using that slipstream. Tim Alele thinking about a move into turn 1. So is Terziak, though, to the outside line. Big slam from J-Lane, who overcooked his braking point. Tim Alele sent over the chicane, and he has a time penalty to his name now, obviously, because the game's, well, very, very harsh. It's only 3 seconds, luckily for him, but that is a disastrous start for the German Mercedes driver, and now has a 10-second time penalty for gaining a place and corner cutting It's disaster and disaster added on to disaster for Timalele. It has not gone his way. By the way, if you look at the top left, it's not a safety car. I just want to clear that up. You can see the track at the bottom left, or bottom right rather. It's not yellow, so it's not a safety car. The Codemasters don't know how to program a UI. However, Terziak in all of that got caught up so badly. Slam's now moving up into P7. Terziak might well have superficial front wing damage because Big Sam has got a great run on him. And look how easy that was for him to pass. And it's surely going to be easy for Buck 57 to do the same. It's a disaster for Terziak, who, again, well, was one of the drivers in the hot seat once that safety car had come in, as Thanasi sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix through Parabolica. Terziak still not completely comfortable, and that right there is, well, just a display right in front of your very eyes of just how easy it is for the rest of the grid to make the moves. And through the first chicane, Terziak does definitely have a problem. He's losing time hand over fist. And it's devastating for the Ferrari driver. Meanwhile, up at the front, someone else's devastation. It's someone else's attempt to get into lead nation. It's Milo in the McLaren. Through Lesmo 2 he goes, and to be honest, he doesn't have to make any moves. He can literally just stay behind Thanasi, use his DRS, get away from the cars behind, and, well, be the hero of the day. Gotta say, in those in-between conditions, Milo is... Oh, there's a 3-second time penalty. I'm gonna have to carry on with that sentence in a moment. Buck 20, you naughty dog. Anyway, back to what I was saying. In those, like, in-between conditions, between the intermediate and dry phase, Milo was practically untouchable. It was a wonderful, wonderful first stint for the McLaren driver. Once it started to dry up a little bit, Thanasi did catch up, yes, and he got more comfortable with how the car was feeling. But Milo, what a first stint that was. As the fastest laps continue to tick down. The smoke screen left behind by Magico. They head into the first chicane. There is racing going on behind. The Bucks bringing the utmost fizz. Contact made slightly. But Buck 57 down the inside. It's a lovely little move. Meanwhile, J-Lane and Stark going side by side through the Curva Grande. J-Lane slots in ahead for the time being, but for how much longer will he be able to put up this resistance? Stark looking very comfortable and quick, and what an exit that was! Slams into the diffuser of J-Lane, has the inside for Lesmo 1, but caught up on the grass. A spot of lawn mowing will not garner you a positive position, my friend, and J-Lane knows that, uses it to his advantage, and what momentum it was round the outside. Miller, I believe, is taking all of the sensible pills. He is catching up all the time, but just using the DRS, like I say, to hoist himself away from the cars behind. As your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, is Magico. Look at that. Look at the gap. A few seconds in it. Wait, hang on. I can fix this. Magico is your race leader, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. A couple of set. Oh, he's pit. Oh, no. And there goes my illusion. God damn it. Anyway, back to the action up at the front, and Milo's actually decided to throw those sensible pills into a blender and grind them to a pulp. And Stark, meanwhile, does get through past J-Lane. You saw it in the background. You see it develop in front of your very retinas. Through into P4 he goes, and P3 surely on the cards next. Milo into P1. I said he just could have waited, honestly, because Thanasi with that penalty has absolutely no hope in hell. Or maybe he does have a hope. Who knows? There's plenty of time to decide this race. Yeah, oh no! J-Lane with a 3-second time penalty as well. Naughty boy. Thanasi now with a DRS, and let's see what his battery is like. The answer is 100%. It's not exactly like he's short on battery and using this opportunity to try and save it. But Milo, equally, is pushing and actually using this opportunity to hoist himself and the Red Bull driver even further away from the competition. Stark, though, looks to be the man on the move. In that Williams car, slightly more battery to play with. and is going to deploy it down this main straight. Miller with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Stark with the supremacy. Uses DRS, deploys ERS, and through into the podium positions. Goes the Williams driver. The Mercedes man of Timbo didn't have a hope in hell anyway because he has 30 million seconds of penalties. Slam. Buck 57 going at it. Hammer and tong. Throw the kitchen sink at it as well because it's going to carry on through the Curva Grande. Buck 57 will think he's got the job done. Slam holding the inside. Contact made with the rear left of the Red Bull driver into La Roja. Space left. Great racing between the two of them. And despite the superior momentum of Slam, Buck 57 claims P6. He sandwiches it in between his own two numbers in his gamer tag. But even so, nicely done from the pair of them. And now it's Buck 20's turn to see if he can go on the attack. But with that much battery, it's not... Oh, no! Look at this. He has the front row seat to Slam, easily getting through and then cutting in front of his Buck counterpart up ahead. Nicely done there from the Ferrari driver. Terziak actually might have had that brief interlude of just having no pace whatsoever, but he's keeping just outside of a second of this group of cars. So maybe not as bad as we might have first feared, but I still feel like he has some superficial damage that isn't quite being shown up on our feed. Meanwhile, Thanassi moves up back into the lead of the Italian Grand Prix once again. Decides, as Gunther Steiner would say, enough is enough. And away we go. Big Sam, though, using a great slipstream and so much overspeed. He moves up into P6 briefly, but gets a very big barge from Buck 20. And now Terziak has a chance to relieve himself and relinquish someone else's position. He relinquishes P9 from Big Sam. Or rather, Big Sam relinquishes P9. I know what I'm talking about. Down the inside. Hyper-aggressive and opportunistic. Thought about it on Buck 20, but not to be. The Tifosi would have lapped that one up wonderfully, though. Great stuff from the two of them. Stark is catching up the top two, though. Was 2.5 seconds to gap, now down to just 2 seconds. And really, these two up at the front are going to have to start swapping every lap if they want a chance of keeping that Williams at bay, because through Ascari he goes. He's absolutely flying in that car. Good God, what a showing from Stark, as Big Sam is the latest person to get a 3-second time penalty in this race. Plenty of drivers to do it so far. Hardly anyone did it in Zandvoort. I guess they had to make up for it somewhere. Gap now between Milo and Stark behind, just teetering at 1.8 seconds, and I doubt he'll want to wait behind Thanassi very much, although I could be wrong. Nope, he will wait behind Thanassi. That is rather interesting, because I'm watching all of this unfold in front of me as Slam gets in front of Buck 57. Terziak will get in front of Buck 20 using DRS. Big Swimmer will try and do the same. Round the outside he goes, and, well, it's well defended from Buck 20, but he goes wide for turn number 2, and it's as academic as you like. Postage stamp, first class, with next day delivery. Big Sam has got the goods and moves up into P9. Meanwhile, I said Milo probably should have made the move, and he might come to regret it, because Stark has just absolutely reeled them in. Half a second already on this lap. But Milo and co can protect themselves here with DRS. Although how much, because it is the Italian Grand Prix and it's quite feisty. But Stark not having the greatest Lesmo 2 and Ascari run, and Tim Alele is closer to Stark than the Williams driver otherwise would have wanted. Terziak on significantly harder tyres than the others, but plaudits where plaudits are presented. He's sticking within a second of the two cars ahead on mediums, a softer compound, a younger tyre, and he also has managed, I thought he managed to keep DRS, apparently not. That's rather interesting. I'm pretty sure he was in it, so Codemasters, explain yourselves. But up at the front, the gap now 2 seconds. These two now getting away. They're doing very well, and there's only a few laps left of this contest. This race is absolutely rocketed by. Good grief. Again, though, Thanassi so much. Sorry, not Thanassi. I'm going completely off the boil. Stark with so much pace through La Roja, and Lesmo 2 again pushing like a bat out of hell. within 1.7 seconds, but now with the DRS, that is quickly going to disappear, because now it's up to 1.85 seconds. For Ascari, he can just make amends a little bit, and has done so. He's closed those 2 tenths straight away. Stark on the charge then, but he's running out of time in order to properly make inroads in this Grand Prix. Milo's surely going for the move. He's 2 tenths behind. He's decided enough is enough. He's waited behind. He's saved a bit of fuel and battery. And now he can go on the attack. Thanasi waiting a DRS. Timalele through, though, into P3. Got so many penalties, he'll probably just send them into the stewards and try and get them removed. I mean, well, look at that. 13 seconds worth of penalties. I'm sure he'll try and get relieved of that particular penalty timing. But J-Lane as well is on the charge with 6 seconds worth of penalties now to his name. But good news for him is Slam is nowhere near. He is guaranteed, pending he doesn't make a mistake, please don't, in P5 for Sauber, which will be great for him. So keep going as you are, sir. .7 seconds the gap then. Timalele is pushing. 2.5 tours of the Italian Grand Prix to go. If you had to pick a driver of the day at this particular juncture, I would say Milo. Like I say, that first stint definitely put him up in the running. Thanasi grew into this race, though, without that 3-second penalty. He would be very much in the conversation as well. In fact, he still is in the conversation, is Mr. Thanasi. But the McLaren driver has just been imperious. Absolutely incredible from start to finish, and it's paid off for him handsomely. Stark as well has had ferocious pace at times, and he's exercising that particular eventuality. As through into P3 he goes once again. Less than 2 tours of the Italian Grand Prix to go. And we look behind to see a 3-car DRS train with no moves being made. Which is rather interesting, isn't it? Slam with no battery, Buck57 and co. with all the battery. And now deploying it to no end is the Red Bull man, the sister Red Bull car. One in P2, the other one ascends up into P6. Good stuff from Buck57, albeit with the time penalty to his name, but he's been brewing that move for quite a while now. Saved the battery well. Buck20 with another 3-second time penalty. It's not enough to relieve Big Sam of that, though, because he's got 13 seconds. Oh, dear. Slam and Terziak doing good work. You saw it on the left-hand side. I apologise. I was having a swig of water. But they've now moved up to 6th and 7th. Good work from the Ferrari drivers. And I tell you what, Terziak, again, despite the age of his tyres and possibly carrying some superficial damage that we can't see, obviously externally. But despite all of that, he's gone through into P7 and soon to claim P6. So credit where credit is due. Well done to him. Meanwhile, the final lap of the race has begun. Thanasi takes the lead on the track. Milo demoted to P2, but of course with a 3-second time penalty for track limits, it will go the McLaren man's way. He's just got to stay within that 3-second margin. And out of the clutches of the likes of Timalele and Mr. Stark in the Williams and J-Lane. Although he has a 6-second time penalty, so he's less in the conversation. But even so, you never know what could happen in Blackout. Thanasi's, oh my good grief, isn't he pushing? Absolutely leathering it. Just a statement to say that's the kind of pace I could have had. It's a warning to the rest of the grid for future races to come. But Milo is going to be your race winner. I have absolutely no doubt about that. Terziak demoted to P8 meanwhile. Huge battling going on, but he holds it into Ascari. The Parabolica arrives on the track. Thanasi has driven a fantastic race. There's no need to sugarcoat it. It has been fantastic. Milo, though, imperious in Italy. He wins the Italian Grand Prix. The king of the Temple of Speed is the McLaren man. Thanasi, in the end, gets P3. Stark, just by 25 thousandths of a second, gets P2. So that is what Thanasi was pushing for. The Williams driver claims P2 at the death. Fantastic. J-Lane finishes P4. Slam P5. Timalele P6. Buck57 claims his second part of his name in P7. Terziak in 8th by 16 thousandths is agony for the second Ferrari driver. Buck20 in 9th. Big Sam finishes the top 10 and only one driver to go. And he's making his way through slowly but surely and can cross the line with a bit of flair. If you're listening, Magico, do it. He's slowly making his way round the Parabolica to complete off the Blackout Racing League for tonight. Number 69, Mr. Magico, my darling husband, saunters across the start-finish line at the Temple of Speed to complete our Blackout lineup. You've done well, sir. You've finished both races. And again, it's another achievement in the book in the no assists learning phase. So congratulations to you. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my god. My head has never felt like it's been put in a twizzy as much as what it has been today. But even so, it's two different winners in two races. No, three winners in three races. The sprint, it was Maximus. The main race in Zandvoort, it was Terziak. At the Temple of Speed, Milo rises above the rest. The trophy raised to the skies. And in a race that saw it go from wet to dry, the sun came out. A ray of sunshine for the rest of this race. And Milo will be beaming brightest after a wonderful display at the Italian Grand Prix. J-Lane says we love the Temple of Speed. Oh, we do. And with a P4 to your name, sir, Kick Sauber have had a great time. What a week of Blackout again. What a week. F124 never disappoints. Never fails to impress on the racecraft front. You love to see it. And we don't get to see the results, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't get nice things. So, back to the standby screen we go. And we can just summarise what we have seen. And I can't believe what we've seen. Drama from start to finish in both races. Brilliant battles throughout. Constant controversy, drama by the oil tanker full. I have loved every single moment of tonight's Blackout Racing League, and so should you. The Dutch and Italian Grand Prix are behind us. But in chronological order, we had the sprint race. Reverse grid order. Slam got the good start, but unfortunately couldn't hold it. It was Maximus who made the most, capitalised on Slam's faltering, and finished a couple of seconds ahead of the rest and took P1. But Thanasi joined him on the front row in P2. And that set the wheels in motion for the Red Bull, the team that gives you wings, to soar their way through Zandvoort and win. But it wasn't to be. Terziak did the alternate strategy, and in fact it was cars fighting ahead of him hard that made the difference, that allowed him to bring himself back into the fight. And they'll regret fighting as hard, I am sure. But Terziak with a forceful move down the inside. It was his one chance, and he took it. He took that one chance. The prancing horse driver galloped his way through into P1. And for the last lap, didn't look back. He took the win. Thanasi in P2 and Milo in P3. So, with a win like that, surely the Scuderia man would have set himself up nicely at Ferrari's home race, the Temple of Speed, to properly kickstart even more celebrations. It didn't happen. It did not happen. Qualifying saw pole position go to Milo by 5 thousandths of a second from Timalele. 5 thousandths. And then the race came, and the rain descended from the heavens. And it was heaven sent for Milo. got a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting, misjudged the first chicane breaking point. Best believe he didn't make that mistake again. He got away from the rest in what I can only describe as a dominant display of driving. Absolutely gazumped the rest of the grid, convincingly. It was only when Thanasi found his mojo and set up the rhythm that he started to show cracks in his armour. But safety car came out, he served his penalty in the pit lane, came out of the pits, stayed in the coattails of the Red Bull man, and so crossed the line. P1, the Papaya Pros, having another win this season. And again, another battle, another race full of battles, should I say. Ferrari having to make a comeback during that race. Slam finishing P6, Terziak finishing P8 by the slimmest of margins behind Buck 57. J-Lane, Sauber, congratulations to you, finishing P4. Big Sam made the Inters gamble early on, thought he'd done something, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't to be on that strategic gamble. Ended up finishing P10. Magico, my husband, he survived both races. He deserves a clap. Yeah, that's a pretty good clap. He survived both races, though, and it's another bit in the learning phase of no assists. And he's done very well. So I am proud of you, sir. Good job. Our podium for the Italian Grand Prix, Milo, because Thanasi had a time penalty. He finished first on the track, sent a statement by being so much faster than everyone else on the last lap, pulling the gap to 1.5 seconds. Milo in P2, but Thanasi pushed to try and keep P2. It didn't happen, because Stark stayed within 25 thousandths of the 3-second margin to claim P2 for Williams. He'll be overjoyed. Thanasi would have wished he started pushing more, possibly, but he did everything he could, and it just was not to be. So there you are. Great battling throughout. Like I say, congratulations as well to J-Lane, P4 in Italy. Magico, he survived both races. Well done you, sir. Anybody else? Just everyone. Well done, everyone, because the racing was absolutely exceptional today. I loved it. I loved it. And as a commentator, there is nothing sweeter. I had to create a series on the last Friday, and I come here on the Monday, and it's just as good, if not even better. And that's what's so special about Blackout. They've helped me hone my craft. They've given me opportunities that I dreamt of and fulfilled. And still, they allow me to commentate, and they give me the greatest racing to commentate. And I'm so grateful for every single one of them. So a huge thank you to them. But ladies and gentlemen, we are almost done with proceedings tonight. I know, the fun is almost done. Quite incredible, really. But let's have a look at the calendar, just to give ourselves a refresher. And let's see what turns up next week. So Singapore is off the cards. Ignore that. It will be China and Portimao next week. I was going to say 2 extra tracks, but of course China actually was on the calendar this year. It actually made it. That is unbelievable. And perhaps China can be a sprint race, because there are 6 races in real life. Maybe you do 5 sprints in a row at the Chinese Grand Prix. Who knows? But anyway, China will be a 35% race. Portimao, Portugal, a 50% race. It will certainly be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. You certainly should look forward to it. Don't miss out on it. It will be next week, and I will be there in order to commentate on it. Just 3 weeks until the end of Season 16, and its climax is coming thick and fast. That was disgusting. I'm so sorry. Anyway, there are many pleasantries to be done. Obviously, thank you to every single one of you for watching, for joining in the live stream, whether you're watching it now, whether you're watching the VOD later on Twitch or on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching all of the action that has emerged tonight. It has been absolutely wonderful. A big thank you to all of you. A big thank you to Blackout Gaming for allowing me to commentate this every single week, week in, week out. I don't ever take it for granted, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing with my Monday evening. That is the honest truth. It is an absolute joy. And it will always continue to be. Anything else? Yes. Magico, give him a follow. He did all of these wonderful graphics that you see, including this standby screen and this soon-to-be end screen and this start screen. He did all of them, and they look absolutely gorgeous. So give my husband a follow. And then stop following him because I'll file a restraining order. JLand3 on YouTube. You should go there because he has old highlights of Season 15 stuff where I won some races, and it's great fun. So go and follow him on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel at JLand3. Go and watch all of the videos. Give them a like. Show your support. He's an absolute legend. Other than that, I think that's absolutely everything. Don't miss out on next week's Blackout stream. It'll be here on my Twitch channel, Karl Paranik, at 8 PM next Monday for the Chinese Grand Prix and the Portuguese Grand Prix. There are certainly going to be battles. There will be drama. It will be in abundance. And I'm so looking forward to it. Until then, I thank you all so much for watching. And have a wonderful rest of your night or day whenever you're watching this. And until next time in the Blackout Racing League, good night. I screwed up. I'm doing it again. Thank you for watching the Blackout Racing League. Join us next Monday at 8 PM for the Chinese and Portuguese Grand Prix. Until then, thank you for watching, and good night.